Hello, this is Ian, Somerset News Network. Now, I've been trying to get a microphone that'll make me sound a little bit more human. The other mic I was using was too loud. I had to keep turning it down, but the sound got distorted. The microphone on the webcam I've got is too soft, and people were complaining about the noise, rightly so. Or about the noise level, I should say. You know, I knew you could turn it up on your telly or on your computer, but people don't often do that. You know, I watch YouTube videos in the mornings, and every video I watch, the volume is different on them. And you try and get it so it's a reasonable volume. Now, I've got this new mic, cost me a little bit of money, so I'm hoping the quality is going to be better. So I've got the 4K webcam, which gives me letterbox, that's what they call big screen now. And we got the Rode mic, which is this one, and that cost me a fair bit of money. Unfortunately, we've got a problem. I thought, I got a mic stand. I'll pop it on the mic stand. The problem is that they don't match. The threads are wrong. So that mic stand was for the old mic I had, which was absolute crap. It was only a cheap mic, and I thought it would do. But it was absolute junk. So we've got this mic now, and we're hoping that it's going to be a better one for you to listen to. Now, my last video, the audio was not very good. I started it off by using my mic that's strong on my old webcam. So I had this webcam and my old mic off my old webcam. I downgraded it. But the problem is, it was so soft, nobody could hear it. What had happened is that the computer, the program I got, the editing program, had switched to the new webcam and the new webcam mic, which is too soft. So I put the gain up on the editing package I got to 100%, but it was still very low. This is why we've got our new microphone. So, what I said last time was quite an important little video for you to understand, and that was the tyranny of the Labour government. Now, I link the tyranny of the past with the tyranny we're experiencing now. What we've got is we've got the tyranny of a Starmer government. And I mean tyranny. We're putting people in jail for Facebook posts. It's just unbelievable. Oh, they say we got free speech, but then they say it's only a common law. Then you find out you got free speech in the Bill of Rights. And they tell, that's only for MPs. Yes, but when they take newspapers to court, they go direct to the Supreme Court, which is the law lords. So they got over that. Now, the hate crime law was brought in so that if you attacked somebody, it was a hate crime because you didn't like them. They were either a religious crime against another religion or against a different political beliefs. And that made it a hate crime, which doubled the sentencing. But what they're doing now is they're using speech as a hate crime. So if you put on a post on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and somebody doesn't like it and complains to the police, the police have been instructed to believe the victim, even though the victim is using the hate crime law to have a go at you because they don't like you or they don't like what you said, even though you've got the right of free speech. And then, like happened to me, they escalated that hate crime into malicious communications. Now, as far as I understand, talking to my lawyer, for it to be malicious communications, it has to be over a certain amount of time. It just can't be one email. Now, they use malicious communication. Well, it has to be over a long time. You have to keep doing it. It can't just be one post, which is what they tried to get me on, was one single line on a Facebook post. And I've come to the conclusion that the police are being used to harass us because we don't agree with the woke world. And because we're anti-woke, the woke people out there will complain that what we say is offending them. And because they're offending, the police have been told to believe the victims. They're taking sides, which they're not supposed to do. That's where we get the non-crime hate incident from. Now, the tyranny of this government is that they've now cancelled local elections. They're Labour-held seats and Labour-held councils, and they think they are going to lose. So they've cancelled the elections. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but if you believe in democracy and you believe in that your vote matters, to stop a vote is criminal. I can understand it when we had the pandemic, although there's all sorts of problems with that. Or if there was natural disasters or whatever. Say we called an election and there was 6 feet of snow and nobody could get out. Then, yeah, I can understand postponing an election. But to actually cancel an election because you think you're going to lose, that's not democracy, that's tyranny. That's how it starts. The other European leaders that have done this have been Hitler, Mussolini and Stalin. Do you see where Starmer is in the pecking order now? He's turning into a dictator. He will say he's got the divine right of kings. As an elected official, which he is, he can decide what to do, and he's got the royal prerogative. That's what they call it. Which means he's got the divine right of a king. But as Locke said, the king is not above the law. So Starmer is not above the law. And we've got a constitution, rights and freedoms and liberties to uphold. And when your elected government restricts those rights and liberties, it's tyranny. That's all it is. Absolute tyranny. I'm amateur historian. I'm interested in history. Now, we did kings and queens when we were at school. And I got to admit, once I left school, I didn't want to know. But when you deal with, like I do, with firearms, it's nice to know the development of firearms and how they fit into the timeline. And we use kings and queens to do it. It gives you that timeline. Now, our rights and liberties, they start saying, oh, it was Magna Carta. But the Magna Carta was a writing and an act of our already rights and freedoms and liberties that we already had in the country. was just basically reaffirming it. Alfred the Great is said to have gone round the country and written down the common law. Now, that then gave us the Magna Carta of 1215. It was repealed as a whole, but reissued and edited in 1216. The 1216 Magna Carta, I think, is what we should be looking at. But in the late 1700s and early 1800s, when they were doing the Enclosure Acts, and some of the Enclosure Acts were taking in local commons, because we had the Industrial Revolution and people were moving from the farms and villages and moving into towns. They repealed parts of the Magna Carta of 1215. Well, if it already repealed, why are they repealing it again? I don't know. Someone needs to look at that. But nobody talks about the Magna Carta of 1216. Now, the Magna Carta was reaffirmed in 1297. And then we had other Liberty Acts brought in. There was an Act of 1354, where it says due process of law. Now, lots of commentators issue that to all sorts of different acts. But the actual due process of law is written in an Act of Liberties of the Subject in 1354. There was Liberty of the Subject 1405, I think it was, and then there was another one later on in the 1400s. So our rights and liberties are written down. Then we had a few little problems with Parliament not agreeing. You had the House of Lords and the House of Commons, and they would meet. And the Crown. Unfortunately, they had a bust-up, and we got the Civil War in 1640. Although the parliamentarians won, it did not solve the problem. We'd got rid of the king and we put Cromwell in its place as the Lord High Protector. Then we had the monarchy come back, and then we got James II. That would be, in the middle 1600s. And in 1685, we had the Monmouth Rebellion. It was called the Pitchfork Rebellion. Now, the stories I hear locally from, the older people when I was a kid, was that they had the battle at Sedgemoor, down on the Somerset levels, and the Royalists won the battle, and all the farmers and Protestants then scattered, because only the Catholics could hold government ranks. The Protestants were disarmed. So they all disappeared. But it didn't solve the problem. What we got the hanging judge, Judge Jeffreys. And they took them to what was the bloody assizes in Exeter. They were said, if you just plead guilty, it'll be lenient. So the first one got up and said guilty, and Judge Jeffrey said hang the lot of them. Without trial. And they were all hung. That's why it was the bloody assizes. That was a court without a jury. This is what we're headed into now under Starmer. Do you understand? Do you see what's going on? Remember that Starmer was in the Crown Prosecution Service. He's mates with all these judges and lawyers. How do you think Tommy Robinson ended up in prison? It's because it's contrived. on us. And the tyranny is not going to stop until somebody draws a line in the sand and says, hey, that you can't do that, stop. And I'm standing. We've got to stop the tyranny of this Labour government. And the first thing to do is to get our elections back. Anyway, Ian, Somerset News Network, just doing a mic test. I hope this is better. Put a note down below to tell me if it's okay. Bye-bye for now.